Nicole O'Neill once said, "When you find the courage to use your voice, it has the power to positively inspire and change the lives of others. It is one of the special gifts you have to offer the world. It is something to be cherished and championed, never hidden." And that is why we are here on Your Voice, Your Impact. I am the energetic EJ. I am a life and transformational coach, and I work with women aged 40 and above to turn their abandoned dreams into achievable goals by activating their voice for impact. I'm also a podcaster and an event host. On this show with me is
Great, so amazing. The goal of this show is to help people use their voices to create impact. I am a physicist and a life coach. What I do for my clients is I help them build systems to achieve their goals whilst having fun doing it. On this show, we discuss topical issues that can inspire you to move. Like, subscribe, and share. Welcome aboard.
okay. So welcome to Your Voice, Your Impact show. So the thing is, I think there probably is a challenge with Instagram and StreamYard that I need to find out. This happened last week, and I just thought maybe it was just a network problem, but it is repeating itself again today. So I'm guessing there's something to look into over there, and I'm going to probably get to it after the show today. So sadly, we aren't going to be streaming on Instagram today as well, but we're live on YouTube as well as on LinkedIn. So welcome to Your Voice, Your Impact show. And I'm going to bring on Gracie. Please pardon a little bit of background noise you might have from where I'm at. I'm working from a cafe today, so yeah, let's take it away. Hello, Gracie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very well. Thank you. I mean, it seems that we planned it, and I think it's a holiday for me. I'm not in the office this morning. It's afternoon, but I'm in a public space, and I'm feeling the breeze, and I'm loving it. That there is nothing stopping us, even if we're on top of a roof. We'll get it done, and that's one thing that I find really interesting. And yes, I'm happy we're doing this against all odds.
All odds, I believe you're about to say. Please, network, behave yourself, okay? Don't do that. All right. So I hope you had a great weekend. I think the weekend went so fast. Yes, it was holiday weekend, but I
Your
mean,
voice is a little low. Your voice is a
it's
little
low.
low.
Oh
Yeah.
no, lower than before.
Like you're clear. I can hear you, but I'm struggling. Maybe it's the background noise too.
Maybe it's your background noise.
Oh no,
Okay.
it's better now. It's better now. It's better now.
Okay, so we're just going to have to manage like this. Yeah, I was saying that yes, it was a long weekend for holiday, the Eid holiday over here. But again, because like I scarcely know holidays as such, because every day is a holiday or every day is work day, so to say. So yeah, but it was good. It went so fast. I really didn't even realize it was over. So yeah, we're grateful for a new week. And I'm glad that I'm able to make it here today. I was thinking I wouldn't be able to, so I'm happy and I'm super excited about the conversation that we're going to have today. On start early, know when to quit. Um, quitting, quitting generally has a negative connotation, like because of the general saying, "Winners never quit, quitters never win." But then I think there are instances where quitting is the wisest thing to do, right? It's the most, wise, logical, or effective thing to do. And so it is important that we are able to recognize when it is time to quit and when quitting is the best option in our situation. And so I'm curious to learn from our guest today, who is a young dude, and I'm happy that he's here this morning. Well, morning for him because it's like almost like 8 a.m. or thereabouts. That's quite early for him, but it shows his dedication and his discipline, to be here. So we're curious to know how he's been able to cover so much. Thank you. How he's been able to do so much or achieve so much in such a young age. And so, yes, it's going to be an interesting conversation today. So please, if you know any young person who should be here, kindly share this link with them. If you're watching on YouTube, please share the link with them. If you're watching on LinkedIn, you can also please maybe tag somebody in the comment section. Sadly, we're not on Instagram today as well, so we're just going to stick with LinkedIn and YouTube. All right, without further ado, I am going to bring on our guest. His name is Myron Pingasov. I'm going to know, I'm sure. I hope I pronounced the Pingasov well and no letter is silent, but let's find out from our guest today. Hello, Myron. How are you? Myron.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you for having me. Yeah. Now that I'm living in US, everybody calls me Myron.
Myron,
Yes. But
but originally it's pronounced Myron.
yes, technically, but everybody has their own pronunciation, so it's fine.
What about the last name? Is it Pingasov or?
Yeah, it's correct. There's no silent letters.
Awesome. All right, it's great to have you on the show today. How are
Thank
you
you.
feeling in this moment?
Yeah, I'm feeling good outside. It's a Monday, so it's a work day. For me, the weekend was quite long, honestly. I was looking forward for it to be Monday to start working again. But yeah, I'm doing good, thank you.
Are you a workaholic?
Some people might say that, yes.
Okay, some people might say that, but what do you say about it?
I say that I know when to take breaks, but those breaks happen very seldom. Yes.
I like that. I mean, your profile says a lot, so it's only natural for you to have achieved all that you have been able to achieve in such a young age. It says a lot about your work ethics, and but I like the response you just gave about knowing when to take the breaks, and I think that's quite important because that's what separates intentionality from burnout. So when you don't know when to take the break, it can lead to burnout. But when you do know, then it is intentional and you're able to take those breaks when it is needed, and then it keeps your productivity game on a steady, and that is so beautiful. If you were to introduce yourself now, not with your rich profile, like just somebody, let's say we're at a party, right? We're at a party and we bump into each other. How would you introduce yourself?
Um, that's a good question. No, I would just say that I'm someone who is building something for himself, and I like to do sports. Every morning for me starts with a gym session or bicycle session, and yeah, that's about it. I would say that's the two things that define me.
Okay. So you say you're building something. I recently it's been coming to my feed a lot, especially on TikTok. These I don't know what they call it. It's almost like or this matchmaking, pop the balloon kind of thing, right? Where there will be a set of guys and then a lady will walk in, they'll have balloons and they'll pop the girl or they leave it and just basically to 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 find a match. And I'm just wondering, like, okay, so if a lady works in and you're one of the guys on that line, I don't know if you would like imagine yourself like, nah, it can't be me. But just imagine with us that you're on one of those lines and then a lady walks in and you didn't pop your balloon. So ideally, if you kind of think, oh, maybe I could gel with this person, you don't pop the balloon. But if you feel like, no, this is a no, you pop the balloon immediately. So let's assume that you didn't pop your balloon and this lady asks you that question. I'm just wondering when you said, oh, I'll just say, okay, so tell me about you. So you're just going to say, well, I'm somebody who's building something for himself. I love to gym.
Yeah, I mean it's always hard to I think describe yourself, especially in early stages of a career, it's hard to describe yourself and who you really are.
I hear you. I hear you on that one. Okay, so let's just dive right into the conversation of the day. Your profile is quite inspiring, but can be intimidating for some as well. Because somebody can look at your profile and go like, "What? At 18? Hey, I'm 32. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life." That's a possibility, right? But
Yeah.
let's start the question. Like you lived such a life that is packed with high speed. Like for you to be a car racer, it's no beans. Like I mean, just even driving on the express or on the highway, it's a lot. It's not shock of going that fast in a race car. You've flown solo. You've done crazy stuff, like I think you have high level of adrenaline in you and you like adventures, right? What would you say is your internal drive? Or what would you say was that moment that sparked this ambition so early? Was it from you or was it your parents or guardians who identified it first? What was the source of your drive?
So I think it starts, of course, with the people you are surrounded with. So I was always very close to my parents, and my parents also achieved everything by their own without, anyone's help. So, of course, that sparked some ambition in me. But then, um, for example, my father always said that at a young age that you need to work for yourself because there's nobody else that wants to do it for you. So, and I think that hearing from hearing that from when I was 5, it kept on building, and we come to today where I have my own ambition, and nobody has to oblige me to wake up early and go, I don't know, cycling, or then go work, and then, I don't know, stay up late still working. So I think I need to say thanks to my parents, of course, for that, for educating me. But yeah, I think like the number one reason.
That's amazing. Thanks to your parents. I think that even the last conversation we had was that okay. The not last for last month was also a young champ, and we really kept saying thank you to her parents, thank you to her mom and dad, and I think it really speaks to anyone watching as a parent or a parent to be that we there is a way or there are systems that we can put in place to groom geniuses and just as some people are quite intentional about that. If we're not intentional about it, there's also the reverse of it. And I think it's important that this type of conversations come up so that as we are in this age and generation procreating, we should have it at the back of our minds that we want to be as intentional, for the next generation to carry on the best practices or the best kind of mindset that would, set them up for success. All right, Gracie, please over to you.
Okay, so I could relate to what he was saying when you asked him to introduce himself, and he just gave that brief introduction. But trust me, we're still going to go deep into that part, And then I remember, when you talked about being a gym person and being a gym person for someone like me, the next thing I would say if I was a girl that we're going to have a date and I'm asking you, and all that, we're trying to get to know each other, and then the first thing I would ask is, oh, so what is it about building a healthy lifestyle for you? What is it? What's that one thing about? Because for you to have mentioned it in your introduction, it goes to show that it's important for you that whoever you are with should know that, look, I'm a sports person, I'm a gym person. So this question is to you: what is it about being healthy, and what is it about starting off your day with the gym that plays a role in your life as a person and in your profession generally?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, it's a very interesting question, but I think it's how you wake up. It sets like your mood for the day, And I mean, for some people, gym at night is better, but for me, I'm I would say I'm like a really slow person in the morning, so I need some time to, like, let's say, boot up properly to start the day strong. So I really like just gym because that's when, if I need to think about anything before I start working, that's when I have the time, and there's nothing, rushing me because everybody else is asleep. My phone is not ringing, and yeah, normally one rule I do have is that, like, the I do not touch my phone. I mean, I do not keep, picking it up to check something. The only thing I use my phone for is like the gym timer, or like, to see where I am if I'm cycling. And yeah, I mean, for me, the mornings are the best. It just gives you time, by yourself to start the day strong, I'd say.
Powerful. I see an intentional young man that has his, everything is streamlined and everything. So for someone that is so we're talking about starting early, knowing when to quit, and and all of these things. But before we go deep into that conversation properly, you talked about the routine. There's work ringing, 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 and you have shared with us that your parents helped you in kick-starting this lifestyle of yours. Tell us, so far so good, where you are now. If you look at yourself, you know, take us on a journey from when you became very active in your work. What's the story you have to tell? The journey when you became very conscious of work, in itself. What's the journey like? What can you share? Because I mean, for someone that's 18 years old, um, work may not be, in other climes, work may be like, okay, work is something that is subtle, like on the side for some people, and for some people it's what they're about. So take us on that journey so that we can hear your story on how you have been able to create this routine for yourself, and how you have been able to inculcate your personal and your work life.
Yeah.
Am I
So
clear? Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So that takes us a very, I'd say, far road, which is quite a bit in the past. So 12 years ago, so when I was five, well, 13 now, I started racing. And I started racing because my father really liked sports cars. He really liked Formula One. And initially, now that I look back at it, I think it was more of his dream for me to become a professional race car driver. But it ended being, of course, also my dream after some time. I mean, at five, it's really hard to dream about anything. You don't really understand how things work. So it's it's something that, as I said, starts with your parents. But then yeah, and then I started, of course, this routine. And every time you start something new, you don't really know where to begin, and you just think, you do your best to figure out where you begin. So um, I'd say that took us about 3 years with my parents, with my father being like my let's say my manager at the time until I was 8, and then my mother always, yeah, really helping me in the races also. And then after that, at 8, we moved to Spain, and that's when we started doing like this professionally. So we started embracing the amount of hours it required. We started doing more professional races, starting with like the Spanish karting championship. So it became a bit of a pattern, um, because I was always involved in that. So I was doing school simultaneously, but of course, once I came back from school, I had to go train. At 8, I already started training physically with a personal coach. Then, after in the morning, I would go, I don't know, for a run with my mother. And even though I did not want to, like, to go for a run at 8 years old, my parents still, said that you need it for racing, you need it to stay healthy, to stay in good physical shape. So we are going on this run. And I guess they just shaped like a timetable for me, which I then later on followed. But to answer your question, when I really became conscious of how things work, I'd say pretty late in this road. Um, I became conscious that l- I mean, work is just, it becomes your everything when you're trying to get to such a high level, for example, even in racing, that at 15 I realized that it's much more than I thought. And that's where I guess I understood more of how it's important, to go on that run at, I don't know, 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., then, go to school. And then after school, you need to jump on the simulator, which is like this racing simulator we have at home. And we've just practiced laps and laps, and to go to the gym, and then to also analyze your, I don't know, your data from the last time you've driven on the track. And basically, that also set a timeline, let's say, for me throughout the day. And I just understood that if you want to become something in what someone in what you do, you just need to follow that timeline until you have done enough repetition that you do it naturally without thinking. Right.
Thank you so much. Before I hand over to the energetic, when you said what you said about parents having that, who came to my head? Serena Williams and Venus Williams. We remember how her parents, I mean, their dad was very, very big on them learning how to play the tennis, the game. And you know look at them today. I mean, but when you said that, I just remembered that, yeah, sometimes some parents would want you to continue where they stop. Over to you, the energetic.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing or giving us that backdrop of your history and how you started. And I think I love how you kind of, it began from your parents, but then you owned it. You owned it to say, okay, you know what? Discipline is required. If I'm going to be anything in life, discipline is required. And so whether it is enjoyable or not, I have to do it if I want to get to something. And I think it's important that, young people latch onto that idea early, because it is what sets the tone for you to now be independent, like to be able to do things without anybody macromanaging you or hovering over you to say you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to, because now it's not part and parcel of you. And I think it's important that young people should pay attention to that. Now, this episode is specifically titled Knowing When to Quit. That's such a powerful and often misunderstood, phrase, especially when you say quitters don't win, winners don't quit. And so there are times that you keep trying something or you're really good at something, and the saying that they say, good is the enemy of greater, or something like that, right? Good is the enemy of greater, because you could be so good at something, but there is more. But because you're comfortable with what you're good at, you don't want to go or take that step further. So I want to ask you, like, how did you know it was time to retire from racing? And how were you able to process that decision, both mentally and emotionally? Because for creatives, for example, one of the reasons it's harder to pivot, even when something is like you are hitting the wall and it's not sticking, is because you're so emotionally invested in it. Like, it has to work. I'm not going to quit. It has to work. So I'm curious to know, for you, how were you able to process that decision to retire mentally and emotionally?
So, yeah, I mean, it was a couple of factors involved. As I said, I could go on to become, not maybe Formula One, but I could go into other categories like GT or Le Mans series. But I took a step back as when I was 17, and I looked like around of the people racing around me, and I saw that, especially in the last 5 years or so, the sport we were all involved in has become like a bit corrupt, let's say. So everything was decided for you, and it was decided for many reasons. but not because of the racing reason. So not because of how many trophies you have or what titles you have. It was because of other reasons. So um, when I took that step back and looked at it from a different perspective, I said, all right, so if I have to, pivot into another category, let's look at it from a business perspective. So, of course, when you're racing, it's a very expensive sport. So you have your sponsors, you have your partners, which pay for you, which invest time in you, and so on. So I said, if I do pivot into the other category, how much time from a business perspective would it take me just to return the money that was invested in me? And it turned out to be something like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. So I would only technically start making money professionally when I was 27. So if you look at it, from of course from even a work perspective, a person who goes out of university at 22, he needs to start making money because he needs to live independently. So if you compare that from 22 to 27, there's still 5 years to go. So that was one of the reasons. Of course, the second reason was, sport is dangerous. Any sport is dangerous, but especially if you're racing cars at crazy speeds, and something might happen also not because you did a mistake and you crashed, but I don't know, some mechanical failure, something can happen, other people can crash into. So of course, when you're doing sport, you are not so much scared about yourself. So you're not so scared of what would happen to you. You're scared of what would happen to people around you, like your family, I don't know, your friends, even your sponsors, your partners. So I think that's also one of the reasons which you start rethinking the process. And then of course there are other very small factors, different factors that contribute to it all. But then when you put them all together, you realize that, all right, if I don't have any chances of making it to the top tier of racing, and then this is what I would live with, then you are, well, maybe you need something with more control. And that's when I said, well, I think business is something with more control, because if you dedicate the time to it, and essentially you're building by yourself, of course, everything is also dependent on other people, but it's more dependent on how much time you put in. So, and that's when I said, well, all right, then I need to, you know, change totally my life. And it's not, of course, it's not comfortable, because you spend 12 years doing a sport, and you totally changed your life by the time you should already stick to something. But I mean, it is what it is. Normally people are really afraid of change. I think it's, also people are really afraid of failing. But as I keep saying, it's just the earlier you fail and the earlier you look at it from a perspective of, wow, I did something wrong, and you think, what did I do wrong? Then it's much better than saying, oh no, telling yourself that you haven't failed, even though, so a bit living in a dreamland. And the same applies to my racing career. When you're racing, of course, you live in a bit of a dreamland, thinking that everything will go as planned. But I mean, a lot of things don't go to as planned, because some contracts get teared, other, you have crashes which you didn't expect, you have mechanical failures, you have other factors that all contribute to this. And I said that, well, I need something with more control. So I decided to stop, retire, whatever you want to call it, and pursue a different area.
Wow, that's interesting, because two things that I hear from what you just shared is the fact that one, every no matter regardless of the career you choose, is hard. Like there's hard everywhere, but you can choose your hard. And that's what you've just done. Like, you know what? This is hard. Business is hard as well, but I rather choose business because I want more control. But the second thing I hear you say as well is this thing about us humans actually wanting to be in control. That is, just having the ability to say, okay, I mean, I know there's risk here, but it's still manageable for me, you know. And it's interesting because in your case, it's not a case of, oh, I can control it and so it's better for me. Because it's still, it's for in your case, it's like two different worlds. In this world of business, it's as new to you as like fresh. So the fear of, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen. I've not done business before. I didn't study it and all of that could also paralyze you. But at the same time, that same fear or the same concerns that you have in car racing to say, you know what, tomorrow is not promised. The car could crash. There could be, contracts could end. My sponsors could decide that they're no longer sponsoring me because there's a new kid on the block, right? So it's almost like you taking the control back into your hands. Like, okay, I'm not going to let my life be dictated by other people. I'd rather be in charge so that I know when it's working. I am sure that I am putting in the work and that's why it's working. And if it's not working, then am I putting in the work? Or can I do it better? Or can I shift? Can I say it's just a little bit of flexibility with creating this new life? But I just appreciate the thoughts that went into it. I love it. I love it because I feel like as creatives, it's difficult for us to do this analysis you just did now. Like, okay, put everything down on the table. I love how you calculated it. Okay, if I'm not going to be able to make enough money on my own the next 7 years, what could I be doing? If I start a business in the next 7 years, even if I fail over and over again, by year 7, I should have, gotten how to run the business so that I can then succeed at it. You see what I mean? So it's quite interesting, how your journey has gone, and I just love, how the thought process that went into it. I'm curious, when you were doing that, when you were going through the thought process and the decision, did you do this on your own, or did you have help from your parents or your coaches or your mentors to help you lay these things down? I'm asking this because there are young people who might, also have that level of cerebral, intellectuals to think about these things. But in that case where you had your parents, you had your coaches, you had your sponsors, all of this influence could shut down that thought process, right?
Mhm.
So I'm curious to know, did you take that decision alone, or was this, did you arrive at this decision by the help of other people around you?
Yeah. No, I think it's a very complex decision to arrive by yourself. I mean, everything is quite complex when you're really attached to something. So, of course, I mean, I sat down with my parents and they helped me ask the right questions. They didn't answer anything. They didn't oblige me to do anything. They just asked the right questions, which I then later on answered by myself or answered myself. Um, so yeah, I think they were the biggest aid to answer this big question. Um, but of course, as you said, I also had my team, I also had my sponsors, my partners, my managers. So it's a bit it's a bit of a, I don't know, a team play, let's say.
Right. Wow. That's interesting. And I'm just before I leave this particular question, I'm curious to know still, like even in the midst of all of that, I love that your parents asked you the questions and allowed you come up with the answers. I feel like they're coaches because that's
Yeah.
essentially what a coach does, right? So were there any contradiction to that decision? Like, were there any part of the stakeholders saying, no, that's not a good idea, you're just getting into this space, there's enough? If there was, how were you able to counter that?
I mean, yeah, of course, there was the team boss who I used to race for. He was really against me leaving. He said that, it's a stupid thing to do after so many years dedicated to it. He he wanted me to stay and, drive and other things with him and so on. But I mean, it comes down always to the statistics, I'd say. Of course, you cannot really live life like this because then, life becomes a bit numbers, like only numbers. But at the end of the day, when you need to take a decision, you need to be a bit objective. If you are subjective to one person's I don't know, opinion, then well, you don't see the others, and the others might be more contributing to, your problem, your issue, your decision. So of course it's a matter of looking at all of them. But of course, it's also a bit of a consensus, because if one person says one thing and then the other five people you talk to say another thing, well then, it's clear that that one person is maybe he doesn't want the best for me, or maybe he just wants to help in another way.
I love that. I love that. I just love the logic behind the decision that was made, and it's beautiful to see. And it just also goes to say that it's in the multitude of counsel that wisdom is established. Sometimes when you're making those decisions, it is important that you involve your stakeholders, and like you said, be very objective. And I would just keep speaking to creatives because I am one, and I know the struggles of coming to terms with this kind of decision, especially when it comes to quitting, because for the longest time we have associated quitting with failing, right? So if I quit, it means I'm a failure. No. But if you create something and you're refocusing, it means you've pivoted. And if you pivot to something and the decision you made, as long as it's not an emotional decision, then like you said, you have the statistics to back it up. You had the logic to back it up. Like the data don't lie. This is the data and this is the data. So if I weigh it, then you can make your informed decision. And I think that's really important for us to remember. Before I pass the mic back to Gracie, now you moved from track race to real estate. What, like, that's like a quantum leap. Then you have a little bit of media, and then aerospace engineering. What's wrong with you, guy?
Yeah.
It's so clear that you are very audacious. You are not afraid of change, unless you are pretending. But of course, I don't even think if you're pretending by now, maybe we would have caught you, right? So, what mindset or systems has helped you to take this transition smoothly within this field? Because I mean, it's almost like you are determined to go crazy. Like, I'm gonna go wild, So
Yeah.
what mindset or system is helping you make these transitions?
Yeah. So I mean, to start the answering this question, I think there is a very good quote which says, "Before you quit, remember why you started." And so, if you started for a reason, but that reason is no longer possible, then then it doesn't make sense. There's no logic behind it. So, and I think when I pivoted, it is, as you said, it's a bit wild, because I went into aerospace engineering to study in the university, and I'm doing real estate, which has nothing to do with it. And then a lot of crazy things happening. But I think it's very it's very important to be diversified. And of course, some people think that this diversification is crazy, because there are two opposite things that have nothing to do with each other. But I mean, when you have a bit of knowledge in different aspects, different industries, I think it makes you more aware. And awareness is something that is very important to make these key decisions, because you need to be aware of what got you here, of what does the future look like, what do I need to do to get to the future. So I think diversification helps with being aware. And I always said, it's funny, because being aware is good, but being too aware can like it's no good for anyone, because you just start overthinking a lot. Um, but yeah, so why I wanted to go into aerospace was because I really like aerospace. I think it's a very interesting engineering, because it was also when the first flying apparatus, let's say, got created. It was such a I don't know, it was such a special thing for humanity, and nobody knew how it was created, what was done with it. So how it got to flying. So I think it always interested me. And Honestly, the only reason I went into aerospace engineering is because it's quite a hard major, and I like to be challenged, but also it's quite a prestigious major. So I know that I have a, like, let's say, a backup plan if I wanted to go into any other into any other industry. And not, I don't mean like from owning a business to going to a corporate job, but from owning one business to maybe owning another. I have like the background knowledge for it. And then why real estate? I think it's a wonderful business. It's, I would say, like an old money business because you can never go wrong with it. It's like it's cyclical. So if if one period is not very strong, then the next one will be strong. And it just helps you learn how to be patient, how to trust this process, and how to continue learning and to continue being disciplined, even though when one period or one season doesn't work out, the next one will come. So it's I don't know, it's like a life cycle, and it really teaches you that discipline, that calmness that you need in, I mean, you need in everything, you need in all aspects of life, no matter what you're doing.
I just love how your mind works. Really, it's interesting. It's really,
Thank
really
you.
interesting. Grace, please.
I mean, he's so he's so deep. Um, and then he I think let's not talk about that. Let me ask you, first things first, the Formula One game, I've always been fascinated. I want us to go back there because for me, I try to marry sports and some life, to relate them to certain things. So if you ask me, it's from what you said, it's more like, if the most dangerous, is it the most dangerous? If you were to rate all the sports, what's the top five? And this is not to discourage people because I know that the higher the risk, the higher the financial what's it called now,
Reward.
reward, right?
Yes.
The reward, yeah. So if we're to talk about the top five sports that requires um a higher risk compared to other sports, what are the top five sports you'd call?
Well, I would say number one is motorbikes. So the same as cars, like racing motorbikes. You're not protected. You go. I mean, I know drivers also that, or riders, let's say, that do MotoGP, and they are. I mean, all their skeleton is, it's joined by these screws, and I don't know. I really don't like it. But then, of course, comes. I would say, of course, there are extreme sports like, I don't know, um, trail biking, mountain biking. Those the people that go down the mountain really, really quick. Um, so also those like are really dangerous. Cycling in general, I don't know, Tour de France is really dangerous because they go quite quick, especially when they have the phase that goes down the mountain. I wouldn't say racing is. I mean, it is dangerous, of course, but I wouldn't say it's the most dangerous because if you look, of course, at the statistics, which I always come back to, there has been injuries and there has been deaths, but it's just when there is something like this happening, also the news gets blown up really quick. But of course, it's dangerous because you can injure yourself and never walk again or never race again. You might have, I don't know, you might have a broken leg or broken, I don't know, elbow, shoulder, whatever. And it is dangerous, but I wouldn't rank it in the top five. I think those extreme sports are more dangerous. I don't know, jet skis also, the professional racing. So yeah.
Okay, so disclaimer, we're not saying that, we're just saying that the risk involved in some of these sports. So I asked that question so that I would, the follow-up question would help to clear out this question I have for you. There's a lot of adrenaline. Adrenaline is that hormone that comes up when you're involved in sports. So when you were talking a particular sport, this how would you rate the way you were feeling as a child? How would you rate your level of excitement? Were you always excited? And I have two questions. After this question, there's another one. Was it that level of excitement, in that activity when you you were into it? Was there any level of excitement? And if there was, how was it? Would you call it really good, or just share with us the feelings attached to that particular sport, if you can remember at that age when you were in that sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very freeing, in a way that it just, you were driving, you were in control. Um, there wasn't, the corruption of the bigger sports where everything is controlled. It's very political. So it's very freeing. You just, you were doing purely because you liked it, and that adrenaline, I think, played a nice role in creating that freedom, because you were feeling excited, because I mean, it's hard not to, when you're going at very fast, fast speeds. Even in, if you take a road car onto the highway and you go fast, you get excited, it opens your eyes, you might be smiling, you might be screaming, whatever. So I think it's a very freeing experience, especially when sport is just pure sport. There is no other thing, no other factors involved in it.
Yeah, I so this on a lighter note. I remember I was dating someone one time, and he was into power bikes, so he wanted to get a new power bike, and no, he wanted to go into bike racing. And I was afraid. I was like, okay, give me two reasons why you want this particular sport. Because I mean, when you're driving and a power bike zooms, like everywhere would shiver and everyone would like, what just passed? So for me, he said something which was the reason why I asked. He said, it's the adrenaline rush. It's the feeling of joy. It's and I'm like, really? Really? You're going to get a power bike because of the adrenaline? So when you talked about it, it just got me thinking that, oh, you know, um, the guy now, the best guy, I can't remember his name. I watched a video. His father, he was holding his father, the Formula One guy. What's his name? I've forgotten his name. The guy that was top at some point. I can't remember his name right now. So my question is this: in business and in sports, what have you learned with regards to risk? What have you learned based on your background and your foundation in Formula One, the risk involved, because you listed a lot of risks involved. If you were to take some of the risks and some of the risks that you find in business, what would you see? What are the similarities, and what are you learning, or what did you learn that you can apply in your business? So first is, are there similarities in terms of risks? And if there are similarities, which one has helped you to learn in the business that you currently do? Which one is helpful in the business that you currently do?
Yeah, wow, it's a it's a very complex question. I would say that, um I mean, doing business, sports, doing crazy, extreme sports just for the fun of it, no normal person would do it, because not only is it hard, but it also, I mean, it's not normal, it's not normal to, as you said, go at quick speeds on the highway. It's not normal to live the stress of, a person doing business, because everything is on him. And when you're driving, I think it's very similar to business, because in business, nobody will, let's say, help you. Well, not help you, but nobody will carry the weight you are carrying. So I don't know, if you have an employee, your employee maybe wants the best for the company, but he doesn't know what you are carrying for the company. He doesn't know how much stress or whatever. And that's, I mean, that's okay. He doesn't need to know. But I think in racing it's very similar because you have all these stakeholders around you, but nobody really knows the stress you're going through. And it's, you still need to keep smiling to some people. You need to keep a good relationship with others, and it's really similar to business. I mean, the amount of discipline it requires. And I think this similarity teaches you a lot, especially in business. It's not an overnight thing. It's something that requires a lot of time, a lot of failing, a lot of dedication, and it's something that you don't see the result not in 1 month, not in a year. It's something that is compounding. Same as with sports, when you wake up at 6 a.m. every day to train 2 hours, those 2 hours become 4 hours, and then the 4 hours don't become 6 hours next time. They become eight, which you dedicated, because um it's because the amount of repetition you do just keeps compounding. And that's also very important in business and in sport. That's what makes you a winner. That's what differentiates you from the competitors. If you are not compounding, it's really hard, because you cannot differentiate yourself. If you are, then well, they cannot catch up to you, because if they even start now, they will be always, I don't know, 10, 12 steps behind you. And I think that's the main thing, the main similarity that helps you teach, because it's the discipline, it's the time that you will need to dedicate, and you always need to have in the back of your mind that, I will fail today, but it keeps compounding. And then one day, it will just spark, and the rewards will keep coming really quick at you. So you also need to embrace that.
I love it. I love it. And then so let me play the devil's advocate because I'm still in the do not quit part. I have it in my head. Don't quit because you're gonna find some challenges. But I understand, when to quit. And now this balance is for some people that belong to that category of, what, quitters are losers. You don't quit. Keep going at it. And other people are, the wisest thing to do is know when to quit. Know when to quit. So if you have a simple message to give people in that category, beyond knowing when to quit and beyond quitters are losers, what's that one message that is going to balance it for two people that are in that category, thinking that I'm not going to quit, we die here, we keep going, and then someone that says be smart enough to know when to quit. What's that one message that will tie both of them
Yeah.
together? Then over
I
to you,
th-
the energetic.
yeah. I think the main message is that if you have given it your all, and there are still factors that, cancel that reward, there are still factors that you cannot control, that's the time to quit. Because even if you give more, you will still keep, banging your head against the wall, and nothing will happen. That wall will not move. And it's not because of you or because the amount you dedicate, it's because of things you cannot control. You cannot control the weather, you cannot control other people. So quit when you have given it your all, and the reward is still not there.
I
I
love
love it. I love it. I
it.
love it. Over to you, the energetic.
No problem. Thank you so much. I mean, you just, I just, it's like it's natural to you. It's who you are now, the way you think, the way you process your thoughts about failure, about life, and everything. I want you to speak much, just almost like close to what Gracie just made you do, like saying that one thing. But in this case, earlier on you were talking about the sooner you fail, the sooner you succeed, right? So let's just fail forward. Let's fail quickly so that we can succeed early, right? Can you share one area where you failed, right? And where that failure shaped you, or if there's any specific lesson that that particular experience taught you and how you've applied it to your journey. So, what is specific scenario in your life where you failed, and then yeah, how it changed something in you.
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, failure happens, I would say the more often it happens, the better. And for me, failure happened, I mean, recently, where we've worked on a real estate project for 5 months, and it didn't end up happening because of, as I said, the maths didn't make sense. So the failure for me in that work, in that project, was that we dedicated a lot of time, and time is a very scarce resource, and we didn't do anything. For me, it would much more valuable be for us to finish that project, and afterwards for that project to fail, than fail in this way where we haven't taken into account how valuable time is, and we just used 5 months of our life to pursue something that didn't make sense in the very first time we sat down at the table. And it's not the typical failure story you would give, because some people, when they ask you about failure, they think, oh, when was the last time I fell onto the ground and I needed to get up? But I think it's those small failures that keep, also compounding your knowledge. And yeah, I mean, this is I would say, the most recent one.
Right. That's honestly, I'm really fascinated by the way that your mind works. Being that in this scenario you just shared now, the failure for you is the time wasted, not even just the effort, but the fact that at the end of the day, because what I hear you say in that regard is to say that the time you spent did not add any value to you. But is that totally correct? Because did that scenario or did that whole experience teach you anything? If it did, what was it that it taught you? Because in that regard, then yeah, what was it
Of
that it taught
course.
you?
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, it taught me to not move quicker, not necessarily move blindly, but value your time, and value the time of others. This is very important in business. It's a mutual respect which needs to happen, and it's better to, instead of analyzing and overthinking everything, it's sometimes better to jump in and make the mistake and learn from it, than keep analyzing and never making that mistake. And the only mistake you've made is the amount of time you've essentially spent.
I see the connection now and I love it. I love it. Like I see why and how he said the time spent is actually failing. And it makes sense because a lot of people are actually failures not because of what they do, but because of what they didn't do, right? Because of the action they did not take, because of the
Yes.
decision they did not make,
Yeah.
because of the thing that they didn't do. And I love that, right? So many young people, as we start to wrap up this session, many young people struggle with starting because they are afraid. Everybody's afraid of the unknown, right? They feel like, I need to dot all the T's, dot all the I's, and cross all the T's, right? Based on your experience, what would you say to someone, a young person watching now? And of course, this can apply to older people, but speak to younger people who are watching this or who are going to watch this eventually, to say that they are unsure, they are afraid. What would you say to them to help them take the first step or go for that thing that they're truly afraid of?
So I would say always, as I said, awareness is good. Too much awareness is bad. Because the more you know, the more you analyze, the more you realize you don't know, and the more barriers you will find. So it's very important to take that leap of faith, to take that jump, or as my father says, jump head in first, into anything new, and deal with it later. Deal with it when the issues arise, instead of trying to, you know, eliminate the failure or eliminate the issue by analyzing prematurely. That will never work, because as I said, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and the more unknowns you will face. So take that, that jump and embrace the failure. Failure is not, failure is bad if you keep doing the same mistake over and over again. If you say, okay, I've done something wrong, what have I done wrong? Then it's very easy to change because and this is the knowledge that sticks with you for the rest of your life, and it's very important to experience it on your own, like on your own person, not on somebody else's body, or someone that you see on the street doing this mistake. It will never resonate with you as much as if you do it by your own.
I love it. It comes back to the general saying that experience is the best teacher, even though I would say that not all experience should be experienced to learn, because there are some that just learn from other people's mistake. But again, it's like there are experiences that you cannot go around or
Hmm.
go under. You have to go through it to be able to really get it and for it to stick with you for the rest of your life, like you said. All right. So I want to ask a very funny question. I don't know how often you started to, put yourself more out here to get on interviews and things like that. But is there any question that you wish people asked you more that we haven't asked? Is there anything that you'd like to speak to that you wish people would ask you that kind of question more?
I mean, normally, everybody asks a lot of questions and it's pretty covered, but I would say the only question to get, to maybe lose that fear of trying something and failing is asking the amount of times, I've failed or I've done something wrong. I would say that it would help other people also see that it's just part of the journey, and the same as the hours you're putting in, it's part of the journey. It will never work without those factors.
So tell us, highlight that. How many times have you failed?
The times I can count, I would say a lot. I cannot count. So many that I cannot count.
Gracie, please.
I love it. Failure is part of the journey, and it's in the failing that you know what you're not supposed to do again and again. So I mean, it's been a wonderful conversation with you. You're calm, cool, and you have a wonderful voice. By the way, I love the richness of your baritone voice. So, yeah. Last question from me. What do you do for fun? What are your hobbies?
Hobbies are, I would say, flying. I got my private pilot's license recently, like a year ago. So I'd say
This guy is a
flying.
big dude. He's a big dude. Flying
Yeah,
is
You go
one
fear hobby
hobby.
now. You go
yeah,
fear hobby
Tell me
now.
more. Tell
Flying
me
by the
more.
oh my gosh.
yeah.
That's guy. That's the first thing you
Flying
should
and
have
what?
introduced yourself
Just
with.
flying.
Like
No, I mean flying, sports. It's everything that will teach me something. It's the learning that helps me have fun at least.
please, if you ever get to be on that uh boss the balloon, whatever, this is the first thing you should say. Like, oh, my
Yeah,
hobby is
like I like flying. The girls will be like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna
oh,
go with
okay.
this dude because it's gonna take me around the world."
Oh my goodness, so good. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for encouraging young people to fail fast, fail forward, and get that failure out of the way so that they can get to the destination that they want to get to. And thank you by doing that, by showing that, not just saying it, but showing it in the way that you are living your life. I wish you all the best in your business, in your study, and in every other thing that you do. Thank you so, so, so much. Do you have
Thank
any
you.
final words for anyone
Yes.
watching as we close out this?
No, no, I mean, thank you for having me. I hope this helps, to realize that you are not the only one going through this. And it's also sometimes I forget that I'm not the only one going through this. So yeah, it's time
Awesome.
time time to fail, I'd say.
I love it. It's time to feel. Let's go feel forward. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the show this week. This is the energetic EJ. This is your voice, your impact show. Yes, last week we are talking about how the show is going to be 2 years in July. Absolutely, it's June, eh? So it's next week. We'll be 2 years old by June 19th, and we're planning something for that. We'll let you know, we'll carry you along as we go. Probably probably going to be in June or in July, but just to mark our second year anniversary, we're going to let you know what we're planning so that you can be a part of it. If this has ever, brought value to you, then we invite you to be a part of our celebration as we mark our second year anniversary. All right, this is where we draw the curtain today. Thank you for being here. So we'll come your way again next week with another story, another person sharing their voice and how they're impacting their world. This is your voice, your impact, and it is goodbye. Have a great evening or afternoon or morning. Take care. Bye.